Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever, depending on when you are on where you are in the world. Welcome to the 12th Manila MuleSoft Meetup.
Hi guys, I am Nicole Reyes. I am your I am your host for today. I am an associate consultant at Capgemini, and here with me is my co-host Red.
Hi everyone, I'm Red. I'm Julius Wilfred Leal. You can call me Red. I'm also from a consultant from Cap Gemini, and I am also your host today.
Okay, Red. Let's see. We have a handful of attendees tonight, and there are still people coming in. So you know what, Red? I want to get to know a little bit about our attendees for tonight. So for everyone who are watching right now, who are in this event, do you mind sharing where you're from by typing it in the chat? So your locations.
You can also share us your alias, for example, by giving us a description of yourself and your location. For example, me, I'm Red. I'm a K-drama addict from Taguig City. How about you, Nix?
Oh, okay. I am Nix. That's my nickname. Well, I like K-pop, and I am from Manila. So let's read a couple of replies here right now. So we have here people from India. Hello. We
Hi,
have here
India
from
from
Manila.
Laguna.
Yeah. Wow. We have a lot of people from India here. We have a lot of people from Manila. Hello, guys. Hello. Good
Oh,
evening.
we have this one, Mika, who's from where there's no traffic, Pasig. I don't agree with that.
We have here someone from Australia. Hi. Okay, so everyone, I hope you're having a good day or good evening. So first of all, I would like to thank you all for showing interest in this event. And before we start, oh, we have here someone from Spain Street. Okay, hi. Okay, so we have a few housekeeping rules that I would read out to keep this event organized. So next slide, please, Red. Thank you. Okay, so the first housekeeping rule is we'd like to inform everyone that this session will be recorded. And we'd also like to remind everyone that please keep your mics muted during the whole presentation. Anyways, all the recordings and the slides for today's presentation will be recorded and made available for all attendees, and we will be uploading them to the event site after today. And after each presentation or after our presentation for today, there will be a Q&A session wherein you can ask our speakers questions based on her presentation. And lastly, of course, there will be a mini quiz game after the presentation wherein you may win a free training voucher from our sponsor MuleSoft. So I hope everyone would stick around for that. And good luck to those who's going to be joining and the game later. So one, I would like to discuss the agenda or the schedule that will be following for today's event. Okay, so I'm at the part in the introduction right now. After the introductions, um, we will be having our actual presentation, after which will be followed by our Q&A session. And after that, of course, the games and the giveaways that we'll be having. And finally, the closing remarks. So now, before we move on to the discussion, first I would like to, give thanks to the people and the organizations behind this event. Next slide, please. Okay, big thanks, of course, to our organizers, Mr. Ryan Andal, Mr. Jan Sermino, Mr. Christopher Ko, my co-host here, Red Lial, and of course myself. And I would also like to give thanks to our sponsors for today's event, Capgemini and MuleSoft. This event, guys, would not be possible without the collective effort of all of these individuals, as well as the organizations that we have right now. So again, thank you to all those people. And you know what? Before we proceed to the presentation proper, can you guys give me a show of hands, or you can comment in the chat? Who among us here are first-time attendees in a MuleSoft Meetup event? So you can comment in the chat. You can type me or you can send emojis. Okay, we have here Don is new. Okay, wow. Wow, already
Yeah, we
we
have a
have a
lot of
handful of
times.
people who are first timers. How about you, Red? Are you this is this your first time?
Yeah, this is also my first time, and I'm hosting.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, guys, it's also my first time to attend such event, and it's our pleasure, Red and I, to
Yes.
organize it and host it for all of you guys. So, I hope everyone would be excited and everyone would learn something today from our speaker. So, you know what? Without further ado, we'd like to introduce to you guys our speaker for today. Red, please do the honors.
For our speaker, we have Joyce Banting. Joyce is currently a senior consultant in Capgemini. She has MCD Level 1 and MCD API Design Associate certification. She has a total of 10 years IT experience across different industries such as banking and finance, e-commerce, and payments. She believes that through MuleSoft, she was able to learn more about security and architecture solutions. Let's welcome Joyce Banting.
Welcome, welcome, Joyce.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction.
Joyce, do you have an alias?
Call me Joyce.
All right.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so today we'll be talking about the custom policies. We'll first, let's go through the outline, okay? First, I'll discuss what a custom policy is, and then I'll give you an overview of the API manager policies, and then I'll be showing to you a demo on first how to set up your machine for policy development, because of course this is one of the important parts. And then I'll also discuss the development of the custom policy and then how to deploy the custom policy and update the custom policy once it's already deployed. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so for the introduction, this is just an overview of what our Mule runtime engine looks like. Okay, so on the right side, you see the clients calling the basic endpoint from the backend API. So from their point of view, they're just calling the backend. But actually, MuleSoft has the API gateway, and from there, it's running the API manager. So this is where governance is enforced. So it's basically the entry point and the exit point of the backend API. Okay, next slide, please. So there are kinds of API manager policies. The first is the default. So we have these out-of-the-box policies for categories security, quality of service, troubleshooting, transformation, and compliance. So if you've already developed in MuleSoft, you probably use some of this. The examples are basic authentication. This is simple and one of the basic policies for that we use for authentication. We also have the client ID enforcement for client ID and secret. We have message logging, rate limiting, spike control, and tokenization. So I think some of those would be familiar for you. Okay. We also have the custom policies. So this is what we're going to discuss right now. If ever the policies that we need are not covered by the out-of-the-box policies that are already ready for use. Okay, so these are custom policies that we use to meet our specific business needs. Okay, so the third one is the automated. So sometimes we want to apply a policy for all the APIs that we deploy to an environment. This is when we use the automated policy. So we can use either the custom or the default, but just a reminder that as long as we deploy to an environment and an automated policy is set up there, all the endpoints would be using this policy. Okay. Some of the things that we want to consider would be the number of policies that we use, because of course this will still use resource and will affect the performance if not applied efficiently. Okay. We also want to take note of the order of policies. So sometimes these policies would contradict one another if they're not implemented in the correct order. So policies are implemented in the order that they are listed in the API manager and executed in reverse when sending their response. So I've mentioned earlier that the policies are called inbound to our apps and outbound before returning the response to our clients. So that's why this order is really important. Okay, next slide. This is the overview of what we're going to look at as our POC for today. So I've already deployed two applications. One is the sample app Joyce. This is like the experience layer, experience app. And then we also have the process API, sample Joyce process. And our policy will be calling this process API that we've deployed. So the policy will be added to the experience and the policy is going to call the process. So the steps here would be, let's return. Okay, so first, the Postman collection will, the policy will call sample Joyce process, and then the policy will add the response of the process layer to the request payload so that the experience would be able to see it. And then we will also count the number of requests. This is where we will be using the object store. And then the API will be executed, and then we will update the HTTP status, header, and payload. Okay. All right. So for the setup of the policy development, before demoing it to you, let me give you an overview. So these are the things that you will need. So first is the MuleSoft Enterprise Nexus repository credentials. So take note that users who are just trying to use the Anypoint platform using a trial account will not have this repository credentials. So as long as you're working for a company that has a paid subscription in Anypoint platform, they should have their own credentials. So ideally, someone from the company would know these credentials, but in case you're not familiar with it, you can always ask the credentials from MuleSoft support. So you can find the URL here. Okay, we also have the org ID. So this org ID is something you can see once you log into Anypoint platform. So in the home screen, you can copy the UUID from the browser address. I'll show it to you later. Of course, we need the MuleSoft, Anypoint Studio, and Maven. Okay, and then this is the profile that is actually available in the MuleSoft documentation. So you need to add this in your settings.xml. It's part of their instructions. And then, next slide. We need to execute this Maven command. So first, make sure that you're in the directory where you want your project to be created. And then you must not be inside a folder with an existing pom.xml, because what we've encountered before was there was a conflict because Maven was trying to process the command using the pom.xml that was existing in the same folder. Okay, so these are just some of the notes. Okay, so without further ado, let's proceed with the demo. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So first things first, it's the settings.xml. This is what it would look like. Of course, this is not the actual settings.xml that I'm using. Okay. So the default is actually this servers, and this is the profile that I mentioned earlier. Okay, and other Mule repositories, um, it's usually part of the settings.xml already. Okay, so what's important here is actually this two. Okay, so one is the Mule repository. This is where we put the username and password for the Enterprise Nexus repo. Again, this is available for those who have a paid subscription in AnyPoint platform. Okay, and this one is actually our username and password for Cloud Hub or Exchange or AnyPoint platform. But if you've already implemented the 2FA, you will need the connected apps. So I'll be also including it in the link below, but usually this is just username and password. But since there's 2FA and there's no way of entering the 2FA, we need to stick with connected apps. So part of the links later, I'll be giving to you instructions, the MuleSoft documentation on how to create the connected apps. All right. So once this is already set up, another thing that we will need to do is to run this command in the folder where we want our project to be created. Okay. So take note that most of these are already filled up. What we want to populate are the org ID and policy name. Okay. In order to get the org ID, we want to go to the homepage, anypoint.mulesoft.com, and you can find it here. So this is actually like the address of, the Anypoint platform that we use. Okay, so this is going to be specific to your organization. Okay, so let me copy this and then paste this here. And then policy name. New policy choice. Okay, so let me just copy this here, run this in the terminal. Okay, so this is going to take like a few minutes, 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, it's going to ask for a description and the name. So this is actually what's going to get published in Exchange later on. So description, sample policy by Joyce. And policy name is new policy Joyce. Okay. All right. Yep. Okay, so build successful, and we'll find it here, new policy choice. Okay. So these are actually the things that will be automatically generated. A template.xml, a YAML, and the POM. These are the important things that we're actually going to use. Okay, so let's go to the studio. Okay, so originally this would be blank, of course, like any other project. Actually, let me import what we've created. Uh, Sample, new policy choice, open. Okay. All right. So this is going to be empty. The template.xml is going to be empty. Just the raw, well, this is a sample code actually. This is what you can start with. And this YAML is actually going to represent the UI. So in case we have fields that we want to um, enter as we add the policy to our API, this is where we're going to add it in the configuration. So I'll show it to you later. And pom.xml, of course, our projects would always have this. Okay. Okay, let me go through the policy. Okay. Template.xml, so this is going to be empty in the UI. It's we're going to mostly work with this configuration.xml. Okay. So since these are quite a lot, and of course we don't memorize what these tags are, object store. What I usually do is here add the HTTP request. Okay, and then here I would populate the URL. So for example, um, https google.com. Okay, something like that. And then as part of the headers, I would add um, client ID and secret. And then in advanced, we want to add the output variable. So HTTP var, for example. Okay. And then this one, it's generated here in the flow. This is what I'm going to copy in my policy. Okay, at least we already have a ready code. So it's the same, basically the same with object store. Here we also once we put, actually it would throw an error if we deploy it with these tags, attributes. If we deploy it with these attributes, but of course it's something that you can play around later on. Okay, so let me just remove this. This is actually going to be like similar to what we have already added in our code. Okay. So first, this is the HTTP request that we've made. So the URL here is actually something we input from the UI. It's going to come from proc URL here. So it's going to be three curly brace, open and close. So this is the name from the UI, the description, and the type. All right, so let's return here. So basically, we call whatever the URL is added, and then we set the target because we don't want to change the actual payload that we input. So for example, we sent a payload here, right, in Postman. If we don't set a target, we will change the actual payload. Okay, so this is not something that we want to do. So client secret is also added from the UI, and client ID is hard-coded. And then we can add an extra header, hard-coded. Okay, this is just a data weave command. Okay. Another thing to take note is if you plan to change the header or payload, this attribute is important because you cannot change the payload and header by default. Okay, so you need to add this one. Okay, and then we have the object store. Okay, so the purpose of this is to count the number of times that we've called our endpoint. So first we retrieve the existing count, and then we add one. We set the variable, we add one, and then we save it in the object store. So again, this was actually done through the UI, and then I've just copy pasted it here so that it would be faster, easier. Okay, and then whatever the response here, the proc response payload, we add it as part of the payload that's going to the experience endpoint that we're going to call. Okay, and then we also add the header. So add request header. Um, so we add the request count and the actual count of how many times we've already called the um, the endpoint. Okay, and then this one, execute next. This would call our actual flow. Okay, so all inbound um, process are called here, and then we call this one to execute the actual flow, and then this one is for the post processing. Okay, so post processing we'll call a logger. So I'll just show it to you. We started with policy, so it's clear that it came from the policy. Okay, we'll log the count bar, the payload, and the equation. Okay, so this is the response. We're going to update it. One of the part of the payload, there is a sometimes key in the JSON. So we're going to remove it for every even count, um, in count bar. Okay, so every other time we call the endpoint, the sometimes will disappear. Okay, otherwise payload. And then we're going to update the status code to 201, and then we're going to add a header. Okay, so we also have the error handler here. So I'll also demo to you the error handling so we can easily debug. So we set the variable, um, the HTTP status to the status code, and then we transform the response to the error payload that we receive. Okay, I'll show it to you later. All right, so here is the I'll run you through the sample policy. Okay, the YAML. So first, we enter the proc URL, and we enter the client secret. And then I'll show to you some Boolean. This is a checkbox and the conditional field. So if the some Boolean is checked, this field would show up. Okay. So I'm not using this in the custom policy. I just added this to show you how it works. Okay. Let's go to here. If we apply a new policy, meetup. Okay. So for example, I'll be adding version 13. So this one is the URL. So in our example earlier, we put here google.com. So this is what our policy would be calling, and client secret if ever there is one. Okay, and then some boolean. Yeah, this is the string that's conditionally shown if this one is checked. Okay, all right. So that's just something you can use later on. Okay. All right. So let me show you how to actually how the custom policy works. Okay. So our code, this our custom policy is added here in sample app joys. This is actually just a logger set payload with this one. Always, I am always shown, and sometimes I am sometimes shown. So there's no condition here. Just, it always returns the same payload. And the response, we log the payload. Okay. So once we call it here, okay, so new header is added, and in body, the sometimes is hidden. Okay, so let's try it again. We see that sometimes is already shown. So this is because of the processing that we do post after calling our MuleSoft code. Okay, so it's this one. It's removing the sometimes. Okay. All right. So let's review the logs. Let me. Okay. So what time is it? 6:38. So it's around 37. Okay. 45, 45. All right, let's start here. So this is actually what's called the received payload is with the proc response. So our response was actually this one. Description, HTTP status, of course, it can be anything. Okay. And then it's added here because what we've added in the postman we've sent is actually just this one. Okay, so before calling our actual app, it was added. Okay, and then in the header, we have the client ID, test, client secret. It's actually test also. And then we've added the request count 38. So earlier it's 36. Okay, and then I've tried something earlier, and then 37. So yeah, it's counting. And then here the payload, the response is always this one. And then this one is the logs that we got from the custom policy. So wherever the policy is added, that's where we'll check for the logs if ever we log something from the policy. Okay. So again, it's the same thing. This is always the response. Sometimes we add it, sometimes we show it, sometimes we hide it. Okay. All right. So in order to clear the object store, it's actually here where we've added the policy. It's going to have its own entry here. So we can delete this if we want to start counting from 0 again. Okay, delete. All right. So once we've called this one, the count should start at 0 again. Okay, so count is 1. Okay. All right. That's actually it for the app demo. I'll be showing to you how to deploy. Okay. So what's important with the deployment is that once we've already deployed the initial version, we cannot deploy with the same. Sorry, I'm opening the wrong pom.xml. We cannot deploy the same version. Okay, so for example, this is a version 14. Okay, as far as I know, I've already deployed this. So let's go to the folder, Joy sample policy. Once I deploy this, I'm going to get a conflict because this version is already deployed. Okay, let's just wait for this. Yeah, it's going to package, something like that here. 409, conflict. So once you see this, it means that you've already deployed the version. Okay, so let me just change this to version 15 and then deploy it. Okay, so this should push through. Okay, so this is going to take around 1 to 2 minutes as well, something like that. I think depending on your internet speed. Okay. Right. So it's success. So, okay, we should be able to see it. So here, take note that I haven't refreshed the page yet. Um, once we try to add it, it's not here because we haven't refreshed it yet. So let's refresh our page. So you should already see it here. GitHub policy here, version 15. Okay. So once it's deployed here, you can also actually see it from Exchange. Joy sample policy, APIs using this policy. So version 15, there's no endpoint using it. But version 14, one API is using it. So sample app Joyce is using it in the test environment. Okay, so this is the instance. So this is actually like the summary of about your policy. So this is the name, this is the description. Okay, so when was the last time that there was something published? Yeah, something like that. Okay, so actually that's it for our demo. Let me just go through some of the links and summary. Okay. So I've shown you what to do with the setup in the settings.xml. So the important thing here is that you'll be able to access Exchange using the credentials. So if your account already has 2FA enabled, you need to use connected apps. And you need to also add the MuleSoft Enterprise Nexus credentials. Okay. And then we also have to run the Maven command to create the project. So we need the org ID. It's taken from the home screen URL of Anypoint platform. Okay. In the custom policy development, I'll highlight the propagate message transformations through attribute. If you need to update the payload and header. So ideally, we don't change it, but in case we need to add this attribute. So always be careful when updating the payload and header. Okay. And then we also deploy the custom policy. Of course, we need to update the version before deploying the policy. Okay. So these are the useful reference links. So yeah, try to check them out, and then hopefully you can try to create your own custom policy. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Um, let's give the floor back to our host for the Q&A.
All right. Thanks, Joyce.
All right. Thank you, Joyce, for that presentation. So the floor is now open for your questions. You may type them in the Q&A tab located at the upper right corner of this chat box, and we'll be reading them for Joyce to answer. So you may type in your questions now.
Come on, don't be shy.
Guys, do you
Anyone?
have any questions for our speakers? Anything to clarify?
My presentation was clear.
Yeah, it looks like no one's asking you any question. Okay, let's wait for quite a bit. Maybe there are just people who are still trying to articulate their questions. All right. Okay, I guess.
All right, I think we don't have any questions.
Wow, I guess we don't have any questions. Are you guys sure? You have nothing to clarify based from Joyce's presentation? Oh wow. Okay, so there's Mark. So it looks like Mark Tisang is just typing his question. So let's wait for that. All right. Okay, so let's, while waiting, I'll just read some of the chats from the chat box. Okay, someone here, Rohit said it was a good presentation.
I agree.
Wow. Okay, so Morales said, nice session. Thanks all.
Thanks, Morali.
Okay, so okay, we have a question now. Red, you might want to read it for Joyce.
All right. We have a question from Peter Angelo Santos. What was the use of MVN archetype again?
Okay. And what was the use of the YAML inside the project again? Okay. Let me share my screen.
All right.
All right. So this is actually in this one, the MVN archetype is actually to generate the project. So this is part of the documentation in MuleSoft. So you only need to update these two. So the org ID is, well, going to be populated depending on your um, AnyPoint platform URL. So it's here.
Sorry, Joyce, are you sharing your screen again?
I'm not yet sharing my screen. Okay. Yes. Okay. So Thank you for that one. So this is the org ID and the policy name. So this is just a copy paste from the documentation of MuleSoft. Okay, so we copy our org ID from here. Okay, so this is it. And then, well, the policy name. So this is what we use to create the project for custom policy. So it would include this one. Once we generate, this is what we'll create. The project, the POM, the YAML. Okay. So this YAML is what will um, okay, so this YAML is actually what we'll see in the UI once we add the policy. So here, um, when we go to API Manager, okay, and we try to add the policy, we have some fields that we want to fill out. Okay. So this is it. The process URL, process client secret, and some boolean and some string. So it's here in the YAML. So process URL, the client secret, some boolean, and some string. Okay, so hopefully I've answered your question for that one. And next is from Louis. Does the new rule set for API governance has an effect or will override the created custom policy? Um, Maybe this is something that Ryan or Janos can answer.
Miss,
Yeah, for that one, Louis, with regards to, because the API governance is a new features that MuleSoft recently released. And this API governance is additional rule set that you define to the RAML. So in terms of the API, with regards to the custom policy, so it will not override for that one.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that, Ryan. Okay, so SLA-based rate limiting policy is usually applied first on top of policies. Can I make a custom policy which will be applied first instead? Um, yes. Actually, it depends on how you want your applications to work, right? So let's go here. For example, we want the um, rate limiting SLA based, right? Or well, other policies. For example, client ID enforcement. Well, let's use the SLA rate limiting policy. Okay, let's use the latest version. Configure. Okay. Sorry for that. Anyway, let's try to just add another policy. Okay. So, test 1, 2, 3, okay. Okay, so actually the order, we just need to make sure that the order is important, that the order is correct, right, in the right manner. Because sometimes if it already has an error here, it will not push through with the second policy. So um, the reason why we use the rate limiting policy first is just so that we can block the request as early as possible if the um, if we see the error in the rate, the rate limiting. So once it hits that limit, we should stop all process already. Okay, so yeah, to answer your question, it depends on how you want to implement. If you want to do the SLA-based rate limiting policy last, yeah, you can still do that. Okay, so it just depends on how you want to do it. All right. Does application properties work with the custom policy? Um, no, because actually I haven't tried it yet, but I would guess that it won't because this is before your app is called. This is implemented before your app is called. So I would guess that properties in the deployed app would not be read, but maybe it's something that we can play around with and test for later purposes. Okay. From Mike, does custom policy appear on out-of-the-box dashboard, analytics, and metrics? Maybe that's for Janus or Ryan again. Janus or Ryan, does custom policy appear on out-of-the-box dashboard, analytics, or metrics?
No.
No. Okay.
Sorry, Joyce. Actually, guys, we don't have much time for all your questions to be answered, but don't you worry. We'll try to answer them on the chat, or if not, we have a copy of all your questions, and we'll have Joyce answer them offline and post it on the events page. So, in case you still have other questions, you're still free to type it on the chat box, and we'll collate everything for everyone to answer for Joyce and for the organizers. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joyce, for answering all of the questions, and for Ryan and Janos, and also for all of those who asked. Now, let's proceed to the next part. You can share your pictures, the pictures of this event on your social media. Just use the hashtag MuleSoft Meetup and hashtag Manila MuleSoft Meetup. Uh, can we smile? I'll take a screenshot so that we can post it later on as well. 1, 2, 3. All right. Now let's proceed to the next part of the program, which is the games. I think everyone is excited for this one because there will be 3 winners of MuleSoft
Yeah, free training vouchers.
or
Yes.
training vouchers.
Are you guys excited to win some prizes? Comment on the chat. Come on, who's
I think
excited?
Rich is the one who's most excited about the
Yeah.
prize.
Okay.
All right.
Loot bags for consolation. Anyway, okay. Red will actually show us or present to us the mechanics of the game. Red, please.
All right. Wait for that. All right. For the mechanics of the game, you just go to the URL on the screen, which is thequizzes.com, and enter the game code 983504. Please use your real name or your full name upon joining so that we can easily identify you. And 1 minute will be given for attendees to join the game. You will have 30 seconds to answer each of the 5 questions available. Top 3 in the leaderboard will win the free MuleSoft training vouchers. All right. Uh, let's start the timer for you to join.
Okay, so I actually commented on the chat the link as well as the game code for you guys to use to join.
All right, we'll start at exactly 7:02 Manila time.
Come on, guys. Red, maybe you can share us the
Yeah.
screen. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so we have a couple of people in the game. Okay, come on, guys. These are training vouchers, free training vouchers.
We
Okay,
are
it's going
24 as
to
of now.
very excited for this game.
Yes.
So there will be 5 questions based on Joyce's presentation. So good luck to everyone.
Good luck, everyone. Good luck, Yuichi.
Okay, so I guess 5, 4,
Three,
3,
two,
2,
one.
1.
All right, I'll start the game. For our first question, this enables you to enforce regulations to help manage security, control traffic, and improve adaptability.
Wow, there are a couple of people who are answering very fast.
Speed counts. It will be part of the criteria.
Okay,
All right. The leading one as of now is Mark. Okay, let's proceed to the
okay, the
next.
answer is actually congrats to.
Congrats to those who answered policy. Next question. Which of the following are default policies?
Wow, those are really fast answers.
All done? Peter Santos is leading. Oh, Yuichi is second. The correct answer is client ID and for. Next question. Which of the following statement is true?
Let's see who's leading.
Yuichi is leading.
Wow, there's a lot of movement in the leaderboards. Good.
The correct answer is the number of policies will affect the performance of the. What's that? I can't read it.
I think you can read it from the full question view.
Yep. From the deployed of. Sorry, where's that? Anyway, let's proceed to the next question.
Okay. Is this the final question, Red? Oh, it's not. There's one more.
It's the second to the last. Where can we find the list of APIs using the policy? I think I know this one. All right, all done. Let's see who's leading. Oh, nice. Which is leading. The correct answer is exchange.
All right.
And for the last question, let's see if this will change our leaderboard. How can we add policy to all APIs in your environment?
So, guys, this is the final question. It's who will determine the winners?
All done. Let's look at the leaderboard. Okay.
Wow.
The correct answer is automated policy.
All right.
That's the next question.
Let's let's take a look at the winners again.
All right. Next. I'll end the quiz so that we can see the winners. All right, we have our winners.
We have, okay, that was fast.
I got the screenshot. Anyway, we have it here.
Okay, we have Yuichi, Louis,
And
and Sumedha.
Sumedha.
Congratulations, guys, to all the winners. Each of you will be getting a free training voucher from MuleSoft. And for everyone who joined the game, thank you, and I hope you had fun.
Congrats to the winners.
All right, so moving on to the last part of this event. This would be the closing remarks. I would use this opportunity to thank everyone for joining this event, this meetup event. I hope we all learned from Joyce today. And should you have any feedbacks or any additional questions, feel free to type it in the chat right now. And for the remaining questions that are unanswered yet, we'll be having our organizers and Joyce answer them and have it posted in the events page after this event. And lastly, to all the winners, again, congratulations. And we'll be contacting you regarding your prizes. And again, in behalf of the organizers, we thank you all for attending. And Red, do you have any final
Thank,
messages to our audience?
thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day or night ahead of you. Thanks
And
everyone.
thanks, everyone. Hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
Bye. See you soon.
Hi, Sumera, are you there?
Yes, Ryan, she's here, it seems.